Brought to you by Narrative Niche. Created and produced by Twisted Wicked Animations. Written by Jason Douglas Kurtz. Echo Vayne in Death Rave. The bass hit first, a physical blow that rattled the teeth in your skull and made the cheap vodka in your system vibrate. Then came the strobes, fracturing the world into 1,000 stuttering, violent instants. This was The Vayne, the city's most notorious techno cathedral, a subterranean labyrinth of sweat, chrome, and desperation. And at its pulsing heart, on a booth elevated like a sacrificial altar, stood Echo Vayne. She was a silhouette against a wall of blinding white light, a phantom sculpted from shadow and rhythm. A mane of electric blue hair, crackling with static, whipped around her face as she worked the decks. Her fingers danced over the pads and faders with a speed that was less than human, coaxing a relentless, hypnotic torrent of sound from the machines. To the hundreds of bodies writhing in a euphoric trance below, she was the queen of the underground, a prodigy. A girl who'd crawled out of the city's gutters with nothing but a USB stick and a fire in her soul. They didn't see the subtle, unsettling details. They were too lost in the music. They didn't notice that the sweat never beaded on her porcelain skin. They didn't notice that the frantic, blinding lights of the club didn't cast a shadow from her form. And they certainly didn't notice that as she leaned into the microphone to deliver a whispered, growling vocal sample, her breath didn't fog the cold metal mesh. Echo Vayne was the Spinning Specter, and she was very, very good at hiding it. Tonight, she was channeling a set of pure, unadulterated rage. The tempo was a frantic 145 beats per minute, the kick drum a jackhammer to the soul. Her hands moved with a ghostly grace, manipulating the crowd's collective consciousness as easily as she manipulated the frequencies. She watched them from the booth, her eyes dark as twin voids, scanning the sea of ecstatic faces. She saw the hope in their eyes, the desperate need to forget. They came to the Vayne to feel alive, to lose themselves in the rhythm. It was a tragic, beautiful irony she savored. A young man in a silver shirt caught her gaze. He was front and center, his pupils wide, a beatific smile on his face. He mouthed the words, "I love you." It was a common occurrence. People fell in love with the myth of Echo Vayne. They saw the dazzling girl, the master of the sound, and projected their own desires onto her shimmering, empty shell. Echo offered him a slow, predatory smile that didn't reach her hollow eyes. She faded out one track, the energy in the room dipping for a fraction of a second, a held breath before the plunge. Then she slammed in the new track. The drop was cataclysmic. A synth line, sharp as a shard of glass, pierced the air, followed by a bass tone so low it felt like the building itself was groaning. She called it the Death Rave, and with it, she whispered a command into her mic, a subliminal, distorted phrase that only the most attuned could perceive. Let go. The silver-shirted man's eyes went wide, then blank. His smile vanished, replaced by a slack-jawed, vacant stare. He began to dance, but it was a puppet's dance, jerky and disconnected. His limbs flailed, no longer in time with the beat, but in a grotesque parody of it. He was no longer lost in the music. He was lost from himself. He was a hollow vessel, and Echo had poured a piece of her own nothingness into him. She felt the shift in the room, the spike in fear from a few of the more sober patrons. They saw the man's violent contortions and gasped. The bouncer started to push through the crowd. The energy was turning sour. Echo Vayne didn't want to riot. She needed to be subtle. With a flick of her wrist, she switched the track. The pounding techno melted seamlessly into a more melodic, atmospheric trance. The beat remained relentless, but now it was tinged with an eerie, melancholic beauty. It was the sound of a dream you wake from, gasping, unable to remember. The man in the silver shirt stopped his convulsions. He stood utterly still for a moment, right in the heart of the dancing throng, a single, unmoving monument to the chaos. Then, as if a switch had been flipped, he began to move again, his dance fluid, normal, but his eyes were the eyes of a dead thing. He was still there, but the light behind them was gone. Echo had stolen a piece of him, a fragment of his life force, just a tiny little bite, a secret the crowd would never know. The club's owner, a sweaty, imposing man named Jorge, stormed to the edge of the booth. "What the hell was that, Vayne? You're losing them!" What are you?" he stammered, his voice lost beneath the relentless beat. The Spinning Specter leaned forward, She didn't make a sound, but Jorge heard her voice in his mind, a cold, static-laced whisper that burrowed into his brain. I am the ghost in the machine. I am the rhythm of the damned. I am the reason the beat goes on. And you will let me play. Echo Vayne straightened up, her grin a chasm of nothingness. She didn't need to do a thing. The fear in Jorge's eyes was a feast. She turned back to her decks, her spectral fingers hovering over the faders. With a gleam in her dead eyes, she dropped the needle on a new track. It was a sample she'd recorded herself. The distorted, frantic cry of the silver-shirted boy stretched and warped into a haunting, eternal beat. She was the Spinning Specter, a ghost dancing on the edge of reality, feeding on the souls of the living, one pulsing bass line at a time. And the crowd danced on, oblivious that the queen of the night was death itself, and her music was the sound of their own slow, beautiful unraveling. The end. Collect the trading cards. Just go to narrativeniche.com. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.